Welcome to Military Vets in the Workplace. My name is Jim Jurewicz. This is our third episode of Military Vets Support Outreach for Proud Veterans Outreach, hosted by the Vet Center in Brooklyn Park. Today we're honored to have a guest military vet who is an entrepreneur, Mr. William R. McLeod.
Hi, Jim.
Thank you, William. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that.
Yep.
You are an entrepreneur, and there's not many military vets who become entrepreneurs, so I'm quite enthusiastic to talk to you about your courage, not only as a military vet, but also as an entrepreneur, because the business place may be just as scary as the war, right?
Indeed it can be. Indeed it can be.
All right, well, very good. So why don't you, William, give us a little description of what your business is as an entrepreneur. What do you do?
My business is called Cloud Media Productions. It's based here west of the Twin Cities in Albertville. We are a commercial photography and videography production company, so we work all business to business, basically using video to help businesses solve business problems. How do we write a story, tell a good story to help them grow and reach more customers?
Great. So in our previous episodes, I don't know if you've had a chance to see them or not, but in our previous episode, what we've identified is that the military vet has a difficult time in transition going from the military community to the civilian community. And with that, there may be some psychological issues that they need to overcome. The suicide rate is pretty high, with 22 military vets committing suicide on a daily basis. And we identified homelessness as a big problem. 25% of all homeless people are military vet related. So to encourage a military vet to become an entrepreneur may take a little more courage, but you've successfully done that. So do you recommend that other military vets do that, or do you recommend they go into the workplace? How hard is it? What kind of support can you get? Can you address that for us?
You know, the workplace and also being an entrepreneur, you know, if you look at the different personalities and the different people and the different skill sets that make up the military, if you zoom out a bit wider and look at the general workplace, and it's very similar. You know, there's a place out there for everybody. You know, the glass is not half empty, the glass is half full, right? There's lots of opportunities for veterans out there to be successful. Being an entrepreneur, you know, like being in the military, there's some challenging times. You know, business is not easy. There's ups and downs, just like being in the military. Some days are great, some days, you know, you just embrace the suck and move on. But, you know, in order to be successful as an entrepreneur specifically, it requires a lot of the same things that you learn in the military: grit, persistence, discipline, and mental toughness. Those are all things that become part of a foundation of who you are. Because when you have to go into situations that you might not expect, you need to basically have your brain and, you know, mentally tough and look at things in the right way, realizing that it's not always going to be easy. You know, getting up every day and going and unlocking my front door to my business and picking up the phone and having to call clients and going out and meet people. These can be scary things sometimes, but I think the military, at least for me personally, laid the groundwork for me to be successful in life. And I think any veteran wanting to go out there, you know, has those same tools in their toolbox. It's just a matter of how they want to use them. You also spoke a little bit about, you know, the wider general workforce, and I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunities now that didn't necessarily always exist. I know when we were off air, we had a little bit of this conversation. It's something that I like to say time and time again. Regardless of the politics, you and I could be sitting on the opposite sides of the table and literally ready to fight each other over politics. But when it comes to the troops, everybody supports our troops now. Everybody supports the veterans, and therefore you see a lot of your biggest businesses, and Minnesota is a hotbed for big business. You see a lot of the businesses investing a lot and trying to put together a lot of programs out there for veterans to be successful. So there's a lot of glass is definitely, half full. There's a lot of opportunity for veterans now.
Great, thank you so much. So you had a skill set that you developed in the military, excuse me, that you were able to use when you became a business owner and an entrepreneur. Sometimes the skill sets that the military vets learn in the military, they're not able to find a job, or they're not able to apply those skill sets, so they may have to go look to do something different than what they're accustomed to doing.
Yeah.
So do you think that there's enough opportunity out there for helping the military vet to transition in the workplace to develop some new workplace skills?
There's a tremendous amount of programs, I think, at all different levels. In the community level, going out into generally any community, especially here in Minnesota. My family and I moved to Minnesota years ago, and we're from warm climates. We moved to a cold climate, but we came here and we stayed here because we saw a lot of great opportunities, both in business and in the quality of family life that exists out there. And when you look, at the community level, at the city level, at the state level, and at the federal level, today there's just so many different programs out there that can help anybody, not just a military veteran, but specifically military veterans who may feel like they didn't, if they were a Patriot missile, technician, loading missiles in, they might not feel like that transfers very well. But there's this one test that we all did going into the military, right? It's called the ASVAB. And what the ASVAB was really, in my limited exposure, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to give your recruiter and your military leaders an idea of what your skill sets could be, what they are. And it might not necessarily be that loading Patriot missiles is going to transfer directly, but it might be that they found that you're very good with your hands. And so you might seek something that is similar, go out and look for something where you can use your hands. And then there are just a tremendous amount of employers and big businesses that are looking first for military vets because they have that discipline. They've done tougher things in their life than what this business is ever going to ask them to do. They know they're going to come to work. They know they're going to show up on time. And then they know that they're going to come to it with an exuberance and an interest to learn. And I think there's no better community out there than the veteran community. And I think businesses are coming to recognize that, and they're ready to hire, ready to train. So, it's just about looking for the opportunity. They're all over the place.
Yeah, it's great to feel that enthusiasm that you have for encouraging vets to do that. So you mentioned that Minnesota happens to have a large corporate base here that can attract and provide jobs. That may not be true around the country, but fortunately for this TV program that we're talking about, we are talking about the state of Minnesota. So you and I had an experience of going to a military vet job fair.
That's right.
That was just dedicated to military vets finding work. And fortunately, the state of Minnesota does provide that kind of support for military vets. So you and I will definitely go out there and do that review of that job fair again, and this time be a little bit more prepared. But so what do you think it takes for some of those corporations that don't realize the value and the benefits of hiring military vets? How do you think we can reach them and encourage them to take a brighter look at military vets as job candidates?
It's an interesting question, Jim. I'm a storyteller by nature, right? I have been a storyteller for many years in my life, and thanks to the military, I kind of learned it there, and I've built those skills up. But honestly, I think that's it. There's so many good stories to be told, and that's what we need to do. We need to have forums like this where a couple of vets can sit down and discuss the opportunities that are out there, and then hopefully more opportunities to get these videos or these productions out so that more people can see those stories, because the good stories are there. And any company that doesn't know yet how great veterans are will soon find, when they have the experience of working with a couple of vets as opposed maybe to some other people that they've had to deal with who don't have that base of good discipline and training. They're going to realize they've been missing out, and it's going to look like an opportunity to them that maybe they didn't even know existed. So I think it has to do with the stories, and it has to do with opportunities to tell stories. And so thanks for letting me come in today and tell a little bit of my story, and hopefully relate it to a couple other vets that might be out there looking for similar opportunities.
Yes, so certainly it's my pleasure to have you. Video has become a very significant asset, a very significant tool. The word in the marketplace is 90% of all communication is going to video. And so it may be a little awkward for a veteran to get in front of the camera and make himself available, but in the workplace, if you have a video versus a picture on your resume, you're going to get on the short list a lot faster if you're very good in front of the camera. So do you think it's good for military vets to experience going to seek out professional videographers, or preparing themselves to be able to make these presentations?
It's funny, Jim, because you say that it's something that would be nerve-wracking for a military vet, but honestly, video is something that's nerve-wracking for nearly everybody, and I deal with it on a day-to-day basis. So we have customers, clients, friends, whatever, that want to sit down in front of the camera, and they're just so nervous, so absolutely nervous. And that's one of the things that I find that I'm very good at, but also one of the things that I find that anybody can be good at. It just takes doing it. And once you get over the sitting in front of the camera one time, you start to realize that it's a little bit easier. So I'd recommend for vets that are interested in getting out there and kind of putting themselves at the top of the list with video, you turn their cell phone around and start there. And start behind closed doors, in your bathroom, turn the lights off. Doesn't matter what you have to do, but get your message out, because it's your story. And the best way for you to get good at telling your story to others is to tell your story to yourself first and become confident that, yes, that's the way that you want to present yourself. And should they eventually ramp it up and come to a professional like myself, well, absolutely. Your brand is everything. Every business's brand is everything. And you have choices out there. You can go get your brother's cousin's dog who has a camera to shoot a video for you, and it's going to look like it's going to look, right? And that's going to be your brand presentation to the world. But when you're ready to step it up and you're ready to invest a little bit in yourself, invest in good camera work and good video people. I know a guy, so anybody who's looking for it, I could definitely help out with that. But that's, it is your brand. When you want to invest in your brand, do it right and do it with a professional.
Great. And when we were at the job fair last year, one of the premier companies that we got to interview was General Mills. Mm-hmm. And General Mills had identified that their largest employee advocacy group program is with military vets. So they were very proud of the program that they have for outreach. Also in attendance at that job fair was people like Cargill. Mm-hmm. And Cargill has got some outreach for supporting the vets. Tomorrow night they have a program to address suicide prevention. But there's some companies that aren't aware, that just don't realize how valuable the labor force is that they could find by creating this advocacy program. So what do you recommend from a video standpoint that the corporations do to use to recruit military vets to come and consider working for them?
That was a very interesting question. I think you're always, one of the things that I learned early on, I've been doing this business thing now for 10 plus years, making my way down the path. And one of the things that you learn is do what the big boys are doing. When you see big companies like Cargill and General Mills that are spending, large amounts of money and putting together whole groups of people to focus in this area, they're telling you something, right?
Right.
They know something is working. They know that it's going right. And also the trends that you talked about. So adding those two things together, you've got a veteran workforce, a potential workforce that's just outstanding. Great, dependable people that you can depend on, and also using video to tell stories. And these companies are saying, let's invest a lot in both of those. Well, I mean, they're telling you something, right?
Yeah.
They're pointing you in the right direction, telling you exactly where the target is. All you need to do is just kind of go that direction.
Yeah, you're an advocate of two very valuable assets that companies can use. One is hire the vet, and the other one is communicate your message through video. So that's very good. If you recall, last year we also interviewed a roofing company. A roofing company, I think, from Canada that was acquiring other roofing companies and grabbing market share that way.
Yep.
And they were very enthusiastic about, you know, recruiting military vets to be to doing roofing. So it was a good piece of business to realize there.
I agree. You know, and it's a case in point as well, right? You've got the Cargills and your General Mills. These are big companies, right? Massive companies that are doing a certain type of thing, right? But not every veteran's going to look at that and say, well, I want to go work in an office job. You know, that's if you're a hands-on type of person. There's also other companies out there, like this massive roofing company that's acquiring more companies. So there's lots of different places that veterans can go, and lots of companies that are now starting to realize the value of that veteran community that are saying, hey, come work for us. We're going to pay you well. We're going to train you well. We're going to help you, you know, maybe deal with some baggage you might have brought home. I mean, all of these programs are out there, and they're just fantastic.
So you and I are on public access television, and we're in a very fortunate opportunity to have this nice, wonderful facility here to broadcast our message. And we know that there are a lot of corporations in this Northwest area here that may be tuning in or listening in and hearing this. And I want to encourage you, because you're so good at this videography business, to reach out to those corporations in this local area and encourage them to come on the air and to express their message, because this same platform and opportunity is available to them. So do you have the courage to reach out to some of those corporations?
Sure. You're asking me to come up with a message for them now?
Well, I'm asking you if you are enthusiastic about going to the corporations as much as you are reaching out to the military vets themselves.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is an opportunity, you know, going back again to telling stories. I mean, I think it's all about finding the right avenue, finding the right audience. You know, one of the biggest changes right now in my industry in video production is a lot of smart videographers, hopefully like myself, are starting to move a little bit away from just being a man with a camera and starting to look at more at distribution. Like, how do we get our message in front of the right people? Because the only reason I'm telling stories is because I want the right people to see those stories. And I think it's important, you know, for all of these organizations that are out there, you know, in this area, these big companies, to kind of look at this as an opportunity to get their message, the right message, in front of a new group of people. You know, public access TV is a good opportunity for them. This is a great and beautiful studio, and great crew behind the scenes here putting this all together. So it's a great opportunity for, you know, just finding that new group of people to reach.
So let's talk a bit about workplace training and what the military vet can do to improve his skills. And are there online courses? I know that the SBA, the Small Business Administration, has a program for military vets to learn how to become entrepreneurs. What is video online courses and training? How good is that for the military vet to make themselves improve their skills on their own versus going to some kind of institution? Is that a valuable asset?
You know, the military, like any community, is made up of so many different people. You know, one of the things that we figured out as human beings is we all learn in different ways. And is that the only way or the best way for every vet out there? Probably not. For some people, it's going to be a hands-on, face-to-face. But for other people, like myself, I'm kind of a self-starter. I like to wake up, and I don't want to have anybody else tell me how to do it, or tell me how I'm supposed to do it specifically. I want to go and I want to dig in. I want to learn it myself, because I feel like I can move through it all faster. So, you know, again, at the city level, the state level, and the federal level, there are so many programs like the Small Business Administration that do things for veterans in different ways, but realizing that different veterans learn in different ways. There's just so many opportunities for them to get information, to take that step forward. The key is that they have to believe there's an opportunity, You know, the glass is half full, and there's more opportunities out there. There's more things that they can learn, and just to take that first step forward, and to know that there's other vets in the community like yourself, like myself, who are out there, and we want to help. You know, reach out to us directly, reach out to the Small Business Administration, reach out to your local community, you know, workforce development programs that exist, and find out what different ways there are to learn, and find the one that works perfectly for you.
So I'm looking at the Proud Veteran Outreach, and the Proud Veteran Outreach program is designed to encourage the civilian to get engaged with the military vet. And a lot of us know of a military vet that may live next door to us, maybe, you know, we run into them in church, you know, some friends that might be dating a military vet. We want to encourage the civilian to be engaged with this process as well. There seems to be a little bit of difficulty in the transition where existing American Legions and VFWs are represented by a lot of the senior or baby boomer military vets, and the returning let's say millennial vets are coming out, and there's a problem there. So how can we get the civilian more engaged with encouraging the millennial vets to engage with the military, with the senior military vets? Can we offer some TV programming, for example, to bring them all together, or can perhaps we reach out to the American Legions and the VFWs and do some broadcasting live, because today's streaming video is as available as your smartphone. So what role does technology play in solving some of this problem, or assisting the civilian to be engaged?
It's an outstanding and maybe a very large question that you asked, Jim. But I think you're identifying something that maybe at some point I've realized exists, but never really, you know, encapsulated or defined before. But you're right. It's, you know, even veterans like myself, I've been out of the military for a while, but I'm still probably at the edge of that millennial group where I don't have a lot of other veteran friends or community that I go to, not like the VFW, where, you know, some of your older foreign war guys go and sit around and play cards all day long. There's not as many programs that are kind of built around, you know, our age group, if you will. And I honestly, I don't think I have a great answer for it in terms of what we do, but I think it, again, just for me, it really just ties back into the story. You know, there's all of these young troops that are coming out, and do our civilian counterparts know them, or know about them, or know what their stories are, and how do we find avenues or venues for it, one, not to be embarrassing for the vet, right? Because a lot of us come out and we're like, we've done some stuff, but we don't necessarily want to sit around the table and talk about it all day long. We don't want to make the whole scene about ourselves. And I think often that's some of the issue. When we're dealing with issues, that's probably the thing that we have to do, but the thing that we're all kind of reserved and brought up not to do, just to sit around and talk about all our own problems or air out all of our dirty laundry with everybody. But I think the opportunity to not look at it as laundry, but look at it as experience, and look at it sharing that experience with other people, and finding ways that we can tell stories. You know, and I think the idea of you know, using the VFWs that already exist, and how do we tie that in with the younger generation using technology, because we don't communicate in the same way that we used to, right? When's the last time you wrote a snail mail letter to anybody? Exactly. I haven't done it in so long. I don't write Christmas cards anymore. I send it via email. You know, so how do we do it? How do we solve that problem? How do we use today's technology to tell those stories, but also to tell it to the right people and get the right people watching it and engaging with it? I think it's a great question. I think it's a great opportunity. I don't know if we've decided exactly what that looks like yet, but I think we're on to something.
We certainly are on to something, and I appreciate the opportunity to get so excited with you about looking for solutions to some of these issues. So We are coming upon the next major holiday after Valentine's Day is Easter. And prior to Easter, there's this Lenten season, which we do some fasting. And again, there's a high level of homelessness in the military community. So I would like to invite and encourage the civilians of the Northwest area of the Twin Cities here to reach out to a vet, to perhaps invite them to a meal at an American Legion. Fish fries are predominant in the Twin Cities during Lent, so I think this is a good opportunity for us to encourage more of those people to engage, to role model this to their children at their schools. Earth Day's coming up on April 22nd. You know, share with a military vet another holiday. So there's a whole lot of enthusiasm that can come with the opportunity of broadcasting here. So,
you know, and maybe when you talk about the homeless vets, you know, maybe there's a bit of mistrust happening there too, and maybe that's something that you and I, you know, can, and other veterans like ourselves can kind of pioneer, because sometimes you see the guy on the side of the road holding up a sign and he says military vet, and you don't really know, right? But
Correct.
I guarantee you that, you know, a large percentage of those guys that are stuck on the side of the road probably are actually military vets. And so maybe we can go in and vet the vet, if you will, and tell their story a little bit and share their story with a larger audience, so people know that, hey, this gentleman or this lady has actually been through some stuff, and that's how they ended up in this situation. It's not somebody who's just, you know, trying to avoid a job and collecting money on the side of the road. I don't think anybody's sitting out in 20-degree weather, you know, on the side of the road, unless they're pretty serious about it, right? That's a harder job than you and I do during the daytime. So, you know, have a little heart, take a little risk, you know, to help somebody out, take them out to a meal, like you said. That doesn't hurt. It'll make you feel better. It's setting a great example for your children. You know.
Yeah, if you're giving from the heart, you know, you don't need to make a judgment about that military vet, whether he
Sure.
is or isn't.
Sure.
You know, if you're giving for the right purpose and they are receiving for the wrong purpose, that shouldn't affect your generosity,
Sure.
because you were doing it with the right intention.
Sure.
So tremendous. So again, let me reinforce you know, the support that we have from the Vet Center in Brooklyn Center. There's also a Vet Center in New Brighton. There only happens to be 2 of them. Those 2 vet centers, the New Brighton was one of the first 10 in the country. There's now 300.
Wow.
The vet centers did originate from the military vets from the Vietnam War, where there wasn't any support.
Yeah.
So we now have that opportunity 50 years later, that there is support out there. So as civilians, if you see a vet and you don't know what to do, you can always call the Vet Center, and they will give you all the support you need. So with that, William R. McLeod, it was a thrill and a pleasure to share this event with you.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, very good.
All right.
Thank you. And folks, I look forward to our next presentation, and thank you very much for your time today. And if you're a corporation, reach out and hire a vet.